Welcome to the Making Moves with Mal podcast. In every episode, you'll hear stories from individuals just like you that are trying to make an impact. They'll share their unique journey and some helpful tips that got them to where they are now. You'll hear conversations with people from all walks of life who are trying to make some moves. Now, here's your host, Mal.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on this episode of Making Moves with Mal. Today I'm excited. I have my guest here, Zitlali, and she's going to share a little bit about her business, Zitlali Creative Consulting. Now, her business is marketing-based business focusing in the nonprofit space. I'm excited to kind of hear her story, hear her background, and share some few insights in her industry. So thank you, Zitlali, for taking the time today to join us on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So I always want to start, I like to start every episode with kind of figuring out kind of what got you to where you are and how you started even thinking about this as an idea. Because I know you mentioned that your business started pretty recently, right? 2021.
Yep.
So how did that come about?
Yeah. So the first sort of like entrepreneurship project that I took on was at the end of my time at the School of Art Institute of Chicago. And I was really interested in teaching kids. I was in education for a long time, teaching young kids who didn't have access to art education, art making skills. And so I started organizing pop-ups over the summer with local churches and nonprofit organizations. From there, after I graduated, I started working for a workers organizing campaign. It was the campaign that was organizing low-wage workers to demand higher wages, living wages. And so I started working a lot in building people power. And after many years of doing that, it was strenuous work. This was at the beginning of mobilization. It's been happening for a long time, but this was sort of the introduction of this idea to the masses of like living wages for low wage workers,
Right.
Specifically working in service. And so after that, I sort of started trying to figure out, well, what is it that I want to do? Because I was just dipping my toes in a lot of things. And I started working for a private group of entrepreneurs who owned a bunch of different businesses. And I was working on a lot of different creative projects for them. And it was anything from designing like a museum concept, interactive museum concept, to helping a resident Cup singer revamp his career. So we did like a YouTube show for him. And so I was overseeing all these projects. I was the main point person between the investors, who were my bosses, and then all the people that we were hiring to do these creative projects. And so that's sort of where I started with my business, was that I wanted to do more of that. And I wanted to do that more in nonprofit work, because my work has always been rooted in creative collaborations with BIPOC people, with artists, with creatives. I'm a fine artist. That's what I went to school for, was fine art. So that's sort of where it started with my business, is how do I take all the things that I've experienced and I'm interested in and combine it into something that I own.
Oh, wow. That's a very cool kind of path that you've taken.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to make that transition from like working, in the environment that you were, kind of gaining all your experience, to then deciding, okay, I think I want to start something on my own, branch out, do my own thing? How did that process come about?
It's been, I think there was a period of time too where I actually owned a photo booth company. So this was in between when I left the organizing campaign and then I started working for the entrepreneurs. There was like this point where in this time period, I was always looking for mentors. So I went on Craigslist and I was specifically looking for an entrepreneur that I could learn from directly. And so I met my friend Donald, who is not my friend, but I met him through Craigslist, and he was hiring for his photo booth company, just someone to like run the photo booths at events. And so after, I don't know how long I worked, less than a year, I would say maybe a year, I worked for him. He was mentioning that he was going to sell his business. He just wasn't, he's just wanted to move on to something else. He had other businesses running. So I bought it from him, and
Oh, wow.
and it was an already profitable business. So I was running that for I would say also a year, and then I sold it. And I made like
Very cool.
percent return on investment. So for me, like I've always been doing different things. And so the art pop-ups I did, that was completely funded by me. I wasn't making any money, but I would say that was my first sort of like entrepreneur gig. And then the photo booth is like, okay, like now I'm gonna make money off of things that I invest in. And then now this phase is sort of meshing all those things together. So I would say I've probably started this whole journey since I graduated school, which was like 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you've kind of been experiencing a lot since, right?
Wow. Yeah, it's been a lot of different experiences, and then like taking out of it what resonates the most and holding on to that and getting rid of stuff that doesn't.
Yeah.
Like it's hard for me because I think that I'm good at different things, but I don't have to do all of them. And that's one thing I've learned the most. Like, I don't have to do all the things I'm good at. I just have to pick the ones that I like to do.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Now, a little bit about your business here. Can you tell us about maybe how many employees you have? What does kind of like the day to day look like? Maybe some of the services that you offer. What does that all kind of entail?
Yeah, so it's me by myself, but I do a lot of work with contractors. So it's other artists and creatives that I work with. And essentially, I filter in jobs. And then from there, I build a team based off of my team of freelancers. And together we tackle the projects depending on how big it is. Sometimes it's one other person, if it's like a branding project or it's a group of people if it's a large scale mural. And so yeah, so no employees. I don't think that I ever really want to have employees. I think what I would like is that people hire me for my experience and then they ask me to build a team. And then I have those people on deck ready to go who like,
Oh, so that's very interesting. Yeah, because
yeah.
so the model is you bring kind of the overall umbrella of everything once you get hired onto the project. So it's very project specific, then I assume, right?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah. I
that's cool.
enjoy working on like one-time projects, like building things from the bottom up. That's what I've done when I was an organizer. My role was special projects director, which specifically every 3 months I was given a new project and I had to build it from the bottom up. And then when I worked with the entrepreneurs, it was always a new project. Like, okay, here is the project, and we need you to build the team. We need you to build the budget and all that. So I that's what I enjoy doing.
And I assume there's a lot of moving parts with all that, right? Now, how long are those typical projects? Like the contracts that you bring on, like do they have like a set schedule, set timelines on when these things need to happen, or?
They change depending on what it is. Yeah, like I said, like a branding project might take a few weeks to a few months. A mural project might take a couple weeks, depending. I think that's the longest time a mural project took was like maybe a couple weeks. But yeah, I strive for making things, happen on like a quicker basis. And that's why I have a group of freelancers. So it's not just one person or two people trying to tackle everything.
So I assume then through your experience and through your, your journey in this, you've already built up your I would call it like your book of referrals and partners that you can count on for projects, right? Like you have like specific people depending on the scope of the project.
Yeah, as far as the freelancers, yeah. And
Yeah.
then as far as clients, it's something I'm still building, but there are people that I've already built relationships in the past. And there's people who I have relationships with, but maybe they don't know exactly how I could help them. And so that's something I'm learning as I build this business because it's really based a lot on me and who I am and my capacity versus, a product that I sell. So sometimes it takes a lot of sort of like self-development. And so I can't sell something unless I really know what it is and what it does for people. And when that thing that I'm selling is like inside me, like how, it's a,
Right.
yeah. And maybe I'm this like between business and like I'm also a Reiki practitioner, which it's a whole other thing, but I come from this world of like energy, healing, spirituality. And that's not necessarily something that I push through my business, but it is a part of me. And that's what helps me sort of create a sustainable business practice. And that's what I'm most interested in is not necessarily making like all the money, but building something that's sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. I'm curious to know, like, what's the process for a new client? Let's say there's a nonprofit or an organization that that wants to work with you. How does that process come about? Is there like discovery kind of element to like what they're looking for? How you can fit your piece of the puzzle to their picture? Like, what is that? Can you paint that picture for me?
Yeah. So usually someone reaches out to me and I like to set up, at least a half hour call where I can ask them all the questions. Eventually I want to do something where it's more of like a questionnaire that they fill out. Maybe might be more comfortable with that.
Streamlined, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to make things a lot more fluid, but a call usually. And then from there I follow up with the proposal. So the proposal outlines the details of the project, what I'm proposing, how to tackle this project with a timeline, budget. Yeah. And then from there it's a contract, 50% deposit, and then we get started.
So then, once you guys come to an agreement on the terms for the project or whatever, and you get your deposit, then you start building the team if it requires other freelancers, or then you just get started on what you need to do on your end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice. Okay. Has there been like, do you have like a memorable project that you've been a part of that you've been like, wow, this is something I'm very proud of to be able to help put together? I mean, I'm assuming with, focusing on the non-for-profit space, I'm sure that's a big kind of pillar there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say our murals are our most sought out service that we offer. And we've done a lot of beautiful large scale murals on urban farms, which
Wow.
for us is really fun to do because we get to, make the money to paint, which we love to paint.
Mhm.
And we're in this like beautiful setting and we get to meet the community members and we get to talk to them. We've painted vehicles and so I would say murals is our biggest thing that we like to do and we focus on. I've done fun stuff for example Sugar Factory. We've done like for example did some photography for 50 Cent. So that was
Nice.
probably like like throw names out there.
Right.
But yeah, but yeah, so those are, I would say, I know I'm sure there's other ones. I've done like branding, like logos for nonprofits and small businesses, and that's really fun because it's being able to take what's in their mind of how they see their organization or their business and put it into like a physical, like visual form, and
Yeah.
it's really great to deliver that and have people appreciate that work. And it's something that's like long lasting that they're going to use all over their social media, their websites,
Right. It's creating their new identity moving
Yeah.
forward. Yeah. Oh, it's a big part of what the company is, from them moving forward, which is pretty cool. Now, do you only focus in like local businesses, like local non-for-profits, or are you kind of nationwide as well? Like,
So far, it's everything's been pretty local. I'm right now located in Streamwood, but I lived in Chicago for many years. So I'm going to be moving back in, but pretty much the Chicagoland area. Even in the suburbs, I really don't think I've done anything out here. It's all been like my contacts in Chicago is where I worked many years. So
cool. Is the plan ever to like maybe expand and do more like nationwide, or maybe like a bigger kind of like corporation or non-for-profit like a company or anything like that?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I would love to. That would be something that I would look to plan for. And I've thought about it, and I have people who I worked with who live in, like other places like California, for example. So I've thought of how do we expand this model to the different networks I have outside of the Chicagoland area. But yeah, I think more importantly, I have to just focus on what is it that I do the best and focus on that. And that's what I want to do going into the new year.
Nice. Okay. I have a little bit of a challenging question, I guess. What industries or what other maybe businesses do you see as like a direct competition with what you're doing? Like, how do you set yourself apart from them?
I would say other creative artists, creatives who are building like a one person team
Mhm.
that helps other nonprofits. I'm actually thinking specifically, I have a friend who she's been doing her work for many years. And she's very successful at it. And this is what she does full time. She has, her own clients and she's sometimes overwhelmed with work. So she'll ask me to help. And so we are very similar in what we offer, but also there's ways that it's very different. And then it's also like the styles are very different. So for example, like what I want to focus on is that I come from specifically the fine art world. That's what I went to school for. And so the fine art world and the design world and creative production are very different. And so I like to sort of be in that middle ground of like where these two worlds meet. And I think that that's what I want to focus on as my differentiation. Obviously, it has to be effective. Whatever the creative project is that we do, it has to have results. But how do we push like the boundaries where like, art and design meet? And that's, I think, what I want to focus on more. And it would be different than, for example, my friend, and our styles are very different. Like my art style is very, futuristic, spacey, like weird. And hers is beautiful, elegant, it's more design focused. So it's interesting, but like what is most interesting to me is that we still collaborate and there's not this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. And I guess it also would be a big thing of like getting to know the brand or the company that you're trying to work with to see if it even like if the styles even make sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned, every artist, every creative has their own unique sense of creativity and style, right? And it may not be what a company is looking for, but you may have other options out there. So that's kind of neat.
My experiences are that, for example, the last entrepreneurs that I worked for example, we thought about the world very differently. And for example, like they don't care about like political correctness. And like I'm about like uplifting and supporting the cultural legacies of BIPOC people. And like our goals are different. Like they're about all money all day, no matter what. And I'm like, and so
The values that
maybe we're not the best
right
match. And we did work together. And I think that was one of the things that spurred me to take on my own business because I wanted to be able to make decisions on like, yes, no, based off my values. So
That's interesting. Very cool. So let's talk real quick about maybe some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome as you've gone through this entrepreneurial journey and kind of building out this business on your own. Like, what's been some of like the struggles that you've had to face?
yeah, mentioning before that this is one person team businesses are very difficult for many reasons. And like I mentioned, my friend, that's what she's doing. She's been doing it for many years and she's developed ways to not let that sort of bog her down as she builds. And so that's something that I'm still developing. Like what are sort of the hacks or the tools or the support systems that I can tap into when it does get difficult, when you're working at it alone. I think that also when we're talking about working with freelancers, I would say that 80% of the people I worked with have been great. And then there's a 20% where we just aren't on the same, like we just don't work the same. It doesn't mean anything negative about them. It just means that it just doesn't work this way.
Right. It just doesn't align.
Yeah, but that sucks because I hate that. I don't want to be like, yeah, I would say those. And then I think the biggest thing is anyone's going to say this when you're working a service-based business or any business, really, it's the clients. When you have a client, when you feel like you've tried everything to be, available or transparent or communicative, and for whatever reason, there's a clash.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just used to taking that to heart because I have a people pleasing problem, and that's something I'm learning through this business. And so whether it's clients or freelancers, the people pleasing has to be eliminated because it's not about that. It's just, are we going to be effective or not?
Yeah.
So.
And it's so difficult to find that fine line, especially as a small business owner, right? Because when you think of like your business, I'm sure you think of it the same way because I own my real estate brokerage and, I think of it as like my baby, right? So like if I'm not providing somebody with the best service, I take it as a personal attack. Like, what am I doing wrong? Or how can I improve this? And it's very difficult to kind of find that fine line sometimes.
Really is. Yeah.
Yeah. I get what you mean on that.
Yeah, all you can do is learn from your previous experience, apply it to the next. Literally, that's all you can do. And
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And then, on the note of being, a solopreneur, right? Like an entrepreneur on your own, you wear many hats, just like every other business, right? Like you have to, you have to bring in revenue, you have to bring in new clients, you have to market, you have to brand. There's so many things that, you as an individual have to do in order to create a sustainable business. And sometimes it's hard to realize how much impact that actually makes into your business when it's only you that can really make those decisions.
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and there's only 100% of you, and if you're doing 20% of you into the marketing and 20% of you into sales and 20%, that means that none of these are getting 100%, and so you can't have 100% expectations for each vessel that you're putting yourself in because it's just mathematically impossible.
Right. Yeah. You're so limited.
Yeah. I was going to mention that I read a couple books recently that really helped me with building my business. And they're not even business related, but one of them's The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which I know
Oh, great book.
heard. Yeah. Yeah. And then the other one's What Happened to You by Oprah and Dr. Bruce Perry. So it just talks about it's interesting because they both talk about the same thing, but from two sides of the coin. And so the other book is just really talks about like how your life experiences affect the way, that you navigate the world, your understanding of the world, and how it reflects back to you. And it actually really helped me with the whole client thing. When I have a client, they talk about the idea of like being dysregulated, which we've all experienced. Someone who's just, we're on the road and someone cuts us off and they're flicking us off. Like that person's dysregulated. There's something that's got them all and so when you find a client that's dysregulated, you're like, I sent a nice email, like I followed up, I gave them a discount, I did all the things, like I don't know and they're still coming at me. There's something about them that's dysregulated and like it's nothing to do with you, and that's
right.
And so that's really helped me not like take it on like what else could I do?
Right.
So it's like
It's definitely
so
no, and again, like I mentioned, that's such a hard thing to kind of put into perspective as a small business owner because you count on every interaction with a client to be the best interaction, right? Because you're putting your reputation on the line, you're putting your business on the line, your branding, and then at the end of the day, that's a reflection on you, and it's a reflection on the referrals that you may get from this client or the doors that opportunity could open, right? So you always want to give it your all. And it just, life is that way, right? You can't please everyone. Not every opportunity is going to work out, but that's okay. Yeah. On that topic, right? So, if somebody's wanting to get into like the marketing and consulting space from a creative side, what are some of the things that have helped you get to this point? Like, what's some advice that you can give to somebody that wants to kind of maybe follow in that footstep and follow that same path that you're kind of leading now?
I would honestly say, and this is not something I did and I'm trying to do more, is you really have to do a lot of writing. I think you just have to write a lot. You just have to write all your ideas down, whether it be in a list form on a Google Doc or in a notebook or on Post-its or whatever is the way that you get out what's in your head. Get it out, and then share it with someone. Share what you learned doing that process and then reflect on it, let it sit. Do something similar to that. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but I do see a lot of people saying writing is really important. And
like some creative brainstorming.
Yeah. And I'm always ignoring that. Like, I want to, I just want to do. Like, I'm a doer. I just want to do it. Like, what am I writing for? I want to just do it. But like, you really, I think, have to take time to write it out, talk it out, reflect it out, whatever's in your mind, because you have a lot of ideas. You got to put it somewhere. Because if you just go out and shoot at all the ideas, you're just gonna have like a big mess, and then you're gonna have to sift through it. It's just more work. So write it out, talk it out, reflect it out, and then act on it, and then reflect again and write it. It's just a process, I think, because it's something that I didn't do. And so the first year that I did my business, I did so many different things, and they were great and they were fun, but I think that it caused a lot of issues, and I don't think that it would have happened if I would have spent more time being like, okay, what is it that you really want to do? Not what do you have experience with and you think you could pull off. Like, what do you actually want to do?
Yeah.
So that would be my version.
I like that. Yeah, this happens to me a lot, as a business owner. Like you mentioned, you have all these ideas of how you want to improve your business or processes that you want to implement, but if you don't write it, if you're just thinking about them, if you're not putting things down, sometimes they slip your mind, you forget them, or you're not really taking any action on anything of that. And you're not really moving the needle forward. So I can see how helpful that would actually be.
Yeah. And I think talking to people too is important. Like talking to people who been in your corner
Mhm.
throughout the time that you've done all the things that you've done in your life that can say like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Or like, well, are you sure? Like, yeah, you know?
Bringing you back down, bringing you back down to earth, right?
Yeah.
Now, on that, do you have like any mentors? Do you have somebody that you look up to or look for in these kind of creative brainstorming processes that you go through?
Yeah. I have people who are just like me, who are small business owners, freelancers, artists, creatives, entrepreneurs who are similar to me. We're friends, we have similar experiences, we're doing similar things. And then I have people who I've known because I worked for them, or my friend who I bought the photo booth business off of, we're still cool. Like people who had made millions of dollars. Like I have friends slash like on like mentors, whatever you want to call them, that have made millions of dollars. So
Mhm.
I have both worlds, which is amazing, And
Yes.
so I love talking to both, and usually my friends who've made millions, they're very like money focused business, that's how they've done it. And then I have my friends who are like me, who are like artsy and want to, go smell flowers once in a while. Like, yeah, like, and then they bring me to the other side. And that's what I think that my business is. It's those two sides like merging. Like you can have, the money, ruthless business bitch. Sorry, I don't know if I could.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
You can have that, but you could also go and like smell a flower and like pet some goats or whatever. Right? You can have both. You don't have to pick. And so I think that's what my
Like not losing sight of the passion and why you got into it in the first place, right?
yeah, yeah,
I think that's always so important. I think they say, having a really meaningful reason why you're doing it is what's going to get you through those tough moments or those difficult times where you may think that there's no progress and things like that. So that's awesome. Where do you see like your business going in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, what's your kind of long-term trajectory for this?
for like 3 to 5 years. I mean, I would want to be like sustaining. Right now, it's still in the phase of some months I'm making good amount of money, some months I'm making nothing. So I want it to be sustaining. Slash, I want to have like a real beautiful portfolio to show of X, Y, and Z. But I actually do have that, and I'm learning that I have to just like again, I'm someone that just likes to do things, and I think that's why I'm good at being sort of this like project manager, like starting something, finishing it, and moving on. But then I forget all the things that I've done, so I want to make sure that I have that somewhere, on my website that shows all the things. Yeah, I don't know. I want to be able to provide good paying jobs, gigs for other creatives, freelancers. I want to support others that think like me,
Yeah.
build their own thing, compete with me. I don't know.
Raise yourself up. Raise
This
yourself
is where
up.
the two worlds like clash. Like I'm like compete with me, but like so for I want other people like me to not think that like I don't want to be a gatekeeper. Let's say
Right. Right. Okay. I love that. That's great. Cool. Well, I think that was kind of all the questions that I had for you today. I really enjoyed this interview. I guess the last thing for you would be kind of give us a place where somebody that's maybe interested in learning more about your business, your services, what you offer, where can they find you? What's the best place to kind of reach out to you?
So I'm active on my Instagram and my Facebook. It's Zitlali, and so Zitlali is Zitlali, and it's .creative with no e on my Instagram. But my website I update it all the time. I'm always keeping it updated, so that's zitlali.com. Yeah, I would say those are the best places.
Perfect. And are you taking on any new clients at the moment as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Looking for new clients.
Awesome. Well, like I said, this was a very insightful interview. I really enjoyed kind of learning more about your space and what you do. I wish you nothing but the best and great success in your future. And thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you so
And
much. It's great.
thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode. See ya.